How are you doing
How are
this morning?
you?
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me today.
We were just talking about this is the National Fire Prevention Week, and according to the NFPA, cooking is a leading cause of home fires and home fire injuries, which is why during the 101st Annual Fire Prevention Week, we want to talk about some of these issues that crop up. How big of a problem is cooking related fires in our country?
Actually, cooking related fires account for about half of all home fires. So it definitely is the number one cause of home fire and home fire injuries.
Now, normally when I'm thinking about a cooking fire, I'm normally thinking about greasy foods. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only limit to the home cooking fires, does it?
Absolutely. You're right. We think about frying or deep frying as
Right.
being, the thing that it is. But quite frankly, you can be cooking something on the stovetop and it might not have a lot of grease to it, but there's leftover grease or
Right.
food that contains it that has ignited because it got too hot and it wasn't cleaned up from the time before.
And this year's theme for Fire Prevention Week is cooking. What is some of the easiest ways we can do to kind of protect ourselves and to help prevent these kitchen fires?
Thank you. Cooking safety starts with you pay attention to fire prevention. And we purposefully added that line in there because we live in a world of distractions. We live in a world where if I'm cooking the same thing over and over again, I think I can cut corners, I can walk away from the stove, or, a delivery has come by and I'm just going to leave my stove, just for a second to go pick up that box. But, that second turns into talking to your neighbor or getting
Hmm.
distracted with a text or a phone call. And now I've stepped away from my stove for a lot longer than I thought I was going to. Those are the kinds of things that just happen every day. We're not purposefully doing it, but that's the world we live in.
One of the things, and I've noticed this in the past, I'm famous for this, having a frying pan on the stove and just leaving it. And I ain't worried about turning the handle back the other way, but that's a major cause of injury besides the fire itself, the burning of flesh itself. Is what's how can I prevent that?
You are right about that because it's not just the fires, it's the burns that are related. So if you're cooking on the stove, you definitely want to turn that handle, off to the side or inward. You want to be able to still have access to it, but it's so easy to bump into it, cause a burn. And certainly, unfortunately, if a young child comes up, they're
Right.
curious, they're going to reach up and grab that, and that can cause so many problems.
And you just mentioned children. What are some of the things we could do to help keep them safe in the kitchen? I know a lot of families, it's a family ritual. Everybody participates. If you have to monitor or exclude them from it, it really is a big bonding moment that we've lost with kids in the kitchen.
I
Right.
agree. I mean, it's cooking is family fun. It's your household. It's really about what's age appropriate. Young children should be able to do things like set the table, maybe prep some vegetables, do some things, but they really need to be 3 feet away from the stove, the oven, the grill, anywhere that's hot or where hot foods and liquids are being served.
You have a website, firepreventionweek.org, and one of the things we talk with our local fire departments here, and being prepared, having a plan just in case of a fire, or some of the major things we talk about, like if there is a fire, is there a meeting place you can meet, a bug out bag with certain supplies and things like that, just in case of an emergency. Why is it so important? I just found out a fact a couple of years ago. We were always taught that close your door that
Right.
for just in case overnight, or open your door rather, keep your door open. Now they've kind of changed that philosophy. They say it's best to shut your door. It can stop the spread of fire. There's a lot of different changes in how we look at how we address these issues. Where can people find information on what we might consider the fact and what we might consider maybe old wise tales?
Well, I'll tell you, when you go to firepreventionweek.org, we don't just have cooking safety. Certainly, that's the focus of this year's theme, but we always make sure to have information about working smoke alarms, where you should have them, how to test them, and then, of course, having that escape plan. When you're cooking, a flare up happens. If you have a lid nearby, you can extinguish that fire pretty quickly. But when in doubt, get out. And you're absolutely right. Things like a working smoke alarm. When we were younger, maybe we had one smoke alarm in the home. Really, every bedroom, sleeping area needs a working smoke alarm in every level of the home. When it comes to a home fire escape, everybody needs to know their escape plan, right? 2 ways out of a room, out of the home. And closing the door behind you when you leave the home does help to stop the spread of fire. But that meeting place is the critical one because you want to be sure that everyone got out and certainly never go back in. Again, let the firefighters do their job.
When you talk about having that meeting place, we're also talking about, hey, once we're out of here, meet me over at this tree or whatever. That's always good to extend your escape plan, to have a meetup plan again, correct?
Yes. And everybody should know this plan. So if my children have friends sleeping over, I actually point out the exits and I tell them what our meeting place is outside, so they understand that, especially if you have the grandchildren sleeping over or, your friends' kids, everybody should know because you want to make sure everybody is ready for it. Unfortunately, once the smoke alarm sounds, you may have as little as 2 minutes to get out safely. Today's home fires, yes, unfortunately, today's home fires burn hotter and faster than ever. And really, that has to do with the synthetics in our furniture and our curtains. Open floor plans mean wider spread, the lightweight construction materials we use. So these fires burn hotter, faster with more toxic smoke. And again, that's what makes that such a critical piece. The prevention piece, watching what you heat, setting a timer, having a lid nearby, and then the response in case something happens.
Andrea is the Senior Director of Public Education for the National Fire Protection Association. As we observe Fire Prevention Week this week, if you need more information on how to keep your family and yourself safe, and especially the emphasis on cooking fires, paying attention, staying atop on things. We have so many distractions in our world that little thing we hold in our hand can really take our minds to a different place. You forget something, it can lead to a tragedy. If you want more information, visit Fire Prevention Week at firepreventionweek.org. Thank you so much for being with us. Great information for us this morning.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time.
Once again, that is firepreventionweek.org. We're going to take a break. We're back.